Okay, so today we're going to look at angle relationships. We're also going to review angle types. So let's start with angle types. Manager, something like that. So the first type, you've seen this stuff before. This is a review of stuff you've done back in middle school or even elementary school. Acute angles. Those are angles between 0 and 90 degrees. So usually you would just mark this with a less than 90 degrees. Okay, so we have the less than symbol, less than 90 degrees. Have a look at the protractor we have here. So for this protractor you have two sets of numbers. You have numbers on the outside, and this one starts at 180. And you also have numbers on the inside. On the inside numbers, they start at 0. So if I'm measuring an angle on the right side, I'm going to line up my line with 0. Right here. Okay, let's see if I can make that a bit bigger here for us. Try. Okay, and so from that, this then would not be 155 degrees. You would use the inside number starting at 0, and it would be 26 degrees. So this measurement on the inside of the angle right here is 26 degrees. If you made it a little bit bigger, it would be a little bit more. So here, our angle starts at 0, we open it up, and we can measure the opening of the angle. So anything in this range from 9 degrees to 0 is going to be an acute angle. What's the measurement of this angle right there? Yeah, 55 degrees. So it's not the outside numbers of 125 degrees, it's the inside numbers of 55 degrees. Always make sure you're using the number that starts at 0. Now, if I had started on the other side, so let's just say I was measuring a line over here. I line this one up. Well, now the line matches up with 0. So for this one over here, if I used, say red, and I got another shape, right here, what's the measurement of this angle? 35 degrees. Okay, so you just make sure you're measuring from 0. What's the measurement of this angle right here? Right, 145 degrees. So for this one, you're going to make sure that you use the proper angle, and that one's going to be more than 90. What's that angle called? Okay, so if you're, yep.
The angle past 90 degrees is an obtuse angle.
Obtuse angle, exactly. So that's our next one. So acute between 0 and 90 degrees. Double I, the next one would be obtuse. So that's between 0 degrees and, 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So using math symbols, we can say it is less than 180 degrees, but it's greater than 90 degrees. So you'd have to use two math symbols to show that. Maybe we should just draw a quick acute angle. Give an example. What do you think the size of that angle is? Keeping in mind, this here is 90. So 45, let's just make it 47 to keep things interesting. But you're right, it's probably about 45 degrees. Obtuse, what do you think the size of this angle is? Hundred and what? 165, 130. Well, let's have a look at our protractor. Looking at our protractor, it's probably about here. So it's probably about 130. Okay, 165, David, be way down here. Okay, so that'd be almost open. So going back here, let's call this 130 degrees. There we go. Now we talked about this angle already, the right angle. Should have wrote that in earlier, and that's exactly 90 degrees. And what kind of symbol do we use for that one? Yeah, that little square. Okay, so when we write the little square, we're telling you the value without having to write down a number. So you have to watch out for that symbol that's going to come up in the questions that we talk about. After obtuse, we get to 180 degrees. What do we call that angle? Sometimes it's referred to as a straight angle. So it's 180 degrees exactly. Typically what we do to show that is we put a dot on there and we use the angle symbol as well. Okay? 180 degrees. If it's just a straight line with a dot, that also indicates 180 degrees. Okay. What do we call it when we go past 180? Called a reflex angle. So anything that's greater than 180 degrees, that's a reflex angle. So use the greater than symbol and 180 degrees. So that angle, we would definitely use a dot or the angle symbol showing that it's greater than 180 degrees. So what angle do you think that would be? Maybe about 210 degrees. Okay, 220. Okay. Any questions? So those are all the different types of angles. And you've probably seen most of them, remember most of them. Maybe there's one or two that's new or haven't jogged your memory. Now we're going to draw some relationships. You probably remember one or two of them, but there's also maybe a couple new ones for you as well. So the first relationship we're going to talk about is complementary angles. They're really nice to each other. So for you guys, when you're finding angles, I'd like you to write down the rules. But don't write the whole word, just write down COMP dot. Okay, so that would be the rule. You'd say complementary angles, and you write down comp with a dot at the end showing that it's the short form for complementary. These angles add to 90 degrees. So usually you'd have a 90 degree symbol in there, and you would have an angle. If this is angle A and this is angle B, we can say angle A plus angle B equals 90 degrees. So if we were told that angle A equals 25 degrees, how would we find angle B? Yeah, we could subtract. You go 90 minus 25 equals 65. So always try and come up with it in your head first. 65 degrees. Use your calculator to check. And a lot of these you're going to do pretty quick. You'll get used to them. Okay, you won't need to check, but when in doubt, just check. But always use your head first to build up on your number sense. Okay. Good. So angle B then is 65 degrees. Make sure you have your degree symbol. Okay, it's a 0 raised up. What do they call it when it's raised up? Oh, come on, you guys shouldn't have that. Oh. So the degree symbol right here is a superscript. Superscript. Man, thanks for your help. Okay, so number 2. Supplementary. So we have supplementary angles. These guys add up to 180 degrees. Notice the superscript 0, that's for the degree symbol. Yes. Okay, when you're writing the reason, just write down SUPP dot. So you can say that there's supplementary. So for this one, you'll have a straight line. You'll have an angle coming out. Maybe we'll call this C and this D. We will say that angle C plus angle D equals 180 degrees. So if we are told that angle C equals 50 degrees, then what is angle D? What's the work? Now look at me. Okay. So angle D, how are we going to find that? 180 degrees minus 50. So that equals total of 130 degrees. Now you guys are supposed to be crazy, brilliant, smart. So make sure that you're doing the arithmetic in your head. Use a calculator to check. Easy ones like this, you don't have to check. But if in doubt, always do. Okay? Get the easy marks. Any questions? Next one. 3. These are opposite angles, so opposites. So for the rule, when you're asked to write the rule, just OPP dot. If you're doing old school, sometimes you might see vertically opposite. And you might even hear me say that because I'm so old. Okay, so that's the old name, the long form that they used to say, vertically opposite. Now this one's really easy. When you have two lines that cross, zoom, zoom, they make the letter X, but they kind of also, this angle here makes the letter V, and this one makes the letter V. They're pointing at each other, showing you that they're equal. So opposite angles, or vertically opposite angles, they are equal. If this one here is 80 degrees, this one is also 80 degrees. The vice versa, this one then would be 100 degrees because it's supplementary, right? Those two are supplementary. So then the opposite angle over here would be the same as well, 100 degrees. So you're always going to get this relationship when two lines cross. Okay? You'll have two pairs of opposite angles. So we can say that opposites are equal. Okay. Any question about opposites? Good. Now to show angles are equal, you could also maybe watch out for this marking. You have an angle symbol and the similar line cutting the angle symbol. So that indicates that those angles are equal as well. Question number 4, or relationship number 4. Angles on a line. Okay. Those ones equal 180 degrees. So if you have just two angles, we usually use the supplementary rule. If you have more than two angles on a line, we use angles on a line. And the abbreviation would be AOL. The O can be lowercase or capital, it doesn't matter. But I like to use all capitals to keep it simple. AOL, angles on a line. So for this one, here is a straight line. Then we have various angles, whoops. We have various angles that come off of it. So let's call this 50 degrees. We'll call this 60 degrees. And we'll call this angle 1 and angle 2. Okay. So we want to find angle 1 and angle 2. You have 4 angles on that line. They all add up to 180 degrees. So we can take 180 degrees. We could subtract 60. And we could subtract 50. That would give us what? Now, when you're doing your arithmetic, sometimes you want to put those together and just subtract 110, because that's sometimes easier. Right? 180 minus 110, everyone can get that as 70 degrees. Okay. So sometimes when you're doing the angles calculations, quickly add stuff, so you just subtract once rather than subtract twice. So this equals 70 degrees, but that's both angles 1 and angle 2. What are we going to do now? Yeah, this is angle 1 plus angle 2, and they're equal, so 70 degrees divided by 2 is 35. We have to split that into halves, so angle 1 is 35 degrees, and angle 2 also equals 35 degrees. Any questions? Now, that's a pretty decent example of angles on a line. We could have 4, 5, 6, or 7. Okay. Number 5. This is going to be very similar. Angles on a point. All the way around a point, you have a total in a circle of 360 degrees. So all angles must add up to 360 degrees. There are no exceptions. So looking at this diagram here, we'll say this is 160 degrees. We want to find angle X, Y, Z. So sometimes if you have 3 letters, we would use all 3 to show us what angle specifically we're looking at. We want to find angle X, Y, Z. The vertex, or the corner of the angle, the middle, is always in the middle of the name. Okay. So how would we find that? What will we do for the math? We're only given one number, but what do we know? That's right. We know that's 90 degrees. So we can take our total, 360, and we can subtract 160, and we can subtract 90. Now here, maybe I don't want to add the 160 and 90 together, because it's real easy to go 360 minus 160. It's 200. And then we can quickly go 200 minus 90, and our angle equals 110 degrees. So sometimes we'll do some some mental math to put numbers together, and sometimes we'll just do them separately. Okay. So we have angle X, Y, Z equals 110 degrees. Any questions? So what we looked at today is we called our angle types. Maybe there's a couple new ones there. As well as we looked at the different relationships. Complementary, supplementary, opposites, angles on a line, angles on a point. Sorry, I forgot the abbreviation for angles on a point. It is AOP. Bingo, AOP. Okay, angles on a point. Good. Any questions?